Hey there, friends. What's up? Kevin here from the MSOTD Rocks YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to figure out my thoughts on Bless the Fall. Before we get started, though, please follow MSOTD Rocks on places like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You'll get the 30-second song a day post on all of those platforms, except for Facebook because they got weird policies now, where you get in the know with bands that are upcoming, emerging, bands that are on top of the scene right now, basically expand your musical horizons. We also post on all those platforms anytime anything comes out, podcasts, YouTube videos, any announcements, anything of that sort. Plus, we ask you guys questions, connect with you, all that fun kind of stuff. On Instagram, though, every single Tuesday, we have our IGTV video series, which is behind the scenes look at what's happening here, some rants, some thoughts, whatever it might be. And every single Wednesday night on Instagram, we go live at 9 p.m. Central. You come hang out with us, talk music, and just whatever the hell happens is whatever the hell happens. Please also subscribe to this YouTube channel because not only do you get the Figures Out videos, you also get certain album reviews, EP reviews. You also get other reviews about emerging bands coming up in the scene today, different top 10 lists, and of course the year-end awards at every single year where you can either like my picks or roast me or whatever. But this is also where the Chord Progression podcast lives. It is our very own podcast. We're reviewing all the upcoming emerging and sometimes even top bands in the scene today, and the bands are going to be the biggest bands by the end of the decade. We've had bands on like From Ash to New, Modern Day Escape, Diamante is on the podcast, Mixed from Stitch Apart is coming on the podcast as well. Other bands such as King Clapton, Another Day Dawns, As Strange as Angels, Varsity has been on as well. I mean, there's plenty of them. We've got a lot of episodes out there for you, and here's what you're going to get from them. It's going to be us talking about music with them, and it's going to be like you're sitting in a room with them, shooting the shit while having a beer and having a good time. You can watch all those videos right here on YouTube, or you can stream them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Radio. Links in the description below of everything, so like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbor, tell your dog, tell your cat, tell the other guy at the bar. Now let's go. So first off, when it comes to me picking Bless the Fall, do something on this, I know of Bless the Fall, don't get me wrong. I know the fact that Craig Mabbitt was their original singer. Of course, he was only on the first album and then going to Escape the Fate. But when it comes down to it, one thing I never really knew about Bless the Fall was really who they were. I knew a couple of songs, that was about it. Whenever I asked about them, I was like, wait, they're still around? Or was it the band that started with Craig Mabbitt? I mean, they kind of always just seem the band that you know of, but you don't really know of. So I thought, you know what? This is the perfect band for the Kevin Figures Out series. How I'm going to go through it is simple. First, I'm going to take a look at all 6 of their albums, take a look at the music, figure out if I like it there or not. Then I'm going to go through their image, how they portray themselves look-wise, how they portray themselves in music videos, and of course live videos I have to look at on YouTube as well, because I've never seen the band live before. Just really get a sense out if I like their image. And then how they connect with the community of fans. Of course, as we're coming to the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, I still have to go to social media for all this stuff. So after that, we're going to put it all together, put it as a verdict, and we're good. So let's go. Alrighty, first thing we gotta do is listen to music, so let's get started. Shall we talk? Starting out with His Last Walk, the first time that came out in 2007. One thing I want to say about this one is I'm not going to put as much stock in this one as I am the other 5. Reason behind it is because this is the only one with Craig Mabbitt, and they are primarily with Bo Boken for the majority of their career through 5 of the 6 albums. So that's going to take more precedent. So this one is going to be included in there, but it's going to be the weakest weighted out of the 6. But let's talk about it. One thing I like about this album was it had this more consistent post-hardcore flow, so it's going to have a little bit of a faster pace, more energetic style to it that's going to keep these songs flowing really well. And they also use a lot of times where the guitar tones are a little bit higher pitched than the rest of the instrumentals, so they bring out that contrast. And I'm always a big fan of that. I was a huge fan of that when Era did the run-through on theirs, and it was just a big thing for me. And I really like what Bless the Fall did on this album. Couple of songs. Take a look at Message in the Unknown, where they use a weaker, high-pitched guitar in the verses to contrast the heavier backing. And again, it works in the dynamics and to really bring this out. And then Wait for Tomorrow. It has the feel of like this emo post-hardcore fusion to give both this melancholic, melodic, and energetic style to the whole entire thing. It's a really weird, but it works out well. One thing I like about this album was the fact that they used a much faster pace on the choruses, even with the faster backing on the verses. And this is because it kept this album rather fresh. It kept the energy flowing very well. Again, energy flow was really well done here. And taking a look at one song, Could Tell a Lie, is probably the best example of this because the original, more post-hardcore sound gets an increase in the pace, and then we feel the energy flow, that dynamic track really stands out for the positive as we get into the chorus. So Everything here really works out for the best. So what didn't I like about this album? I'm gonna actually go to Craig Mabbitt on this one, is unclean vocals, because when they were unclean, they just really didn't match. Like this more like messy, kind of scratchy feel to them that really drew away from what the rest of the instrumentals were doing. It just really kind of created this random, more raw, but not the best flowing kind of sound. Take a look at Message to the Unknown, because his unclean vocals remind me of like early Asking Alexandria and Black Veil Brides even, and their control makes the song rather choppy and a little bit messy at times. And times like these, the unclean vocals are a little bit rather wonky, and they completely overpower the layered clean vocals here. This one really is a miss for me. One thing I didn't like about this album was the fact that the volume mix on both the vocals and instrumentals seemed a little wonky at times. And there were times where, again, the volume mix made the vocals and the instrumentals really run together, creating more of this compressed feel of the song and get a lot less dynamic sound, a lot less energy behind it. His Last Walk is the perfect example, is because the verse of his unclean vocals, they do get lost behind the louder guitars, and the clean chorus reverses, and then the overpowering clean vocals really mess with those instrumentals. It is not a thing I'm a big fan of, but overall when it comes to His Last Walk, again, I like the base of their sound that they have. There are a lot of rough points in there right now with the vocals and with some of the volume mixes, but this is the only album with Craig. We're going to get into Bo's albums next, so again, this one's going to have the least amount of weight on there. I like the base of the sound, but there's a lot of specifics that, for me, has to be hammered out going forward. So now we're going on to Witness, which came out in 2009, and now this is where we're really going to start taking more stock into the music, because now Bo Boken is the lead vocalist going forward. So let's take a look. What I like about this album now is the addition of Bo, because I thought with his vocals compared to Craig's initial vocals, Bo's vocals had more of this cleaner, more crisp sound with the clean vocals, and the unclean vocals weren't as raw and as heavy and as more distorted. They had a little bit more of a better flow to them. Take a look at a song like What's Left of Me, where the unclean vocal work is so well done with the rougher distortion on the verses really bring out the power of that song, and the clean melodic construction contrasts well against the rest of the chorus. So it just has this great feel to it in this part. Take a look at Skinwalkers, because you take a look at the chorus, it's going to have this more faster paced, rougher sound for the instrumentals, but the clean vocals are going more melodic. This is where this contrast really stands out, and this is where Bo's vocals really do shine through. So Bo's inclusion, oh yeah. One thing I like about this album is the fact they took that post-hardcore sound that you saw on the first album, and they mixed it with some more metalcore, more pop-punk sounds on this one. Why they did that, I think, was to really create more of this heavier, more faster-paced feel, but when you go with metalcore, it's going to have a heavier feel. Pop-punk's going to have more energetic, lighter feel, but it's all going to work out really well in the end. Take a look at Hey Baby, here's that song where the more melodic post-hardcore build on the song really leads to this great filling transitions, empowering clean vocals that really just have this great mix overall to it with a great song that is probably one of their most popular. Take a look at 590, because the transitioning measures and more of a melodic chorus with the bursting drums really connect back to the more metalcore verse really well with the energy. If you're trying to look for one that really has a great metalcore infusion on it, take a look at God Wears Gucci, and the last one left, that has more of that pop-punk infusion in there, so this is really where it stands out for me. One thing I didn't really like about this album was, even with Bo's clean vocals really standing out, there were times where, again, that volume mix in comparison to the instrumentals was just not fully there, where either the instrumentals were overpowering or the vocals were overpowering, so you really didn't get the full feel of the song here. Take a look at To Hell and Back, because the more dynamic guitar work really contrasts well against the clean vocals, but the clean vocals do have a weaker volume, so that guitar ends up drawing out that sound in the end. Plus, on We'll Sleep When We're Dead, the clean vocals work really well with the more muzzle sound of the verses, but the sound is off to make that part stand out in full contrast because the vocals are way too large. Overall, though, this is definitely a step in the right direction for the band. We're seeing them expand more on that post-hardcore sound, and Bo's inclusion is really working to stand out a little bit more. So we'll see what happens when we go to the next four, because we got four more left. Take a look at Awakening now into 2011, and in this album, I thought the band really took what they did in Witness and tried to take it to the next level. One thing I like about this album was the fact they used these crisp transitions to maximize what they did on Witness with bringing their post-hardcore sound over, but also including more metalcore and pop-punk infusion, because these crisp transitions really made the energy flow on these songs work incredibly well, to the point where if we're going to more of a pop-punk sound, we're going to have a lighter but still energetic feel. If we're going to go more metalcore, we're going to have a heavier, more visceral sound, but the transitions really made these songs come together. Take a look at Promise Once, probably one of my favorite tracks, due to the fact that it has this heavy rapid style metalcore in the intro and the verses, and then mixes unclean vocals and even more melodic clean vocals at the same time to really give more of this full kind of contrast. but then it goes to the lighter pop punk chorus that keeps the energy flowing so well, so we're really getting the full feel here through that transition. Bones Crew is another one where it has more of this emo pop punk mix with that post-hardcore backing. Again, keeping this more energetic flow to the song, which I thought, oh wow, this is definitely interesting. But it does a great job transitioning out of that chorus with a slower pace and also not messing with the energy flow. This was done well. One other thing I like about this album was the fact that the clean and the unclean vocals were mixed really well in here, where they were placed in certain places where, you know, they're going to be more contrast, especially with a clean melodic style with a faster pace, but the unclean vocals for the primary really focus in on that heavier, more faster sound, and it really complemented everything very well. Take a song like Don't Say Goodbye because the unclean verses work well with the heavier back end of the guitar, but the clean melodic vocals also provide a smooth feel to the song in front of the faster drumming at the same time. And then Bottom Feeder because the cleaner vocals in the pre-chorus, it gives us a calmer approach, a calmer feel from the heaviness of the chorus, and the clean vocals transition well in that lighter metalcore sound. So again, we're seeing a lot more here from Bless the Fall in a positive light. One thing I didn't like about this album was the fact the second half had the sameness feel to it. It really didn't stand out at all. And that's the one thing I'm seeing from Bless the Fall is they have good songs, but they just don't necessarily stand out. These songs, especially in the second half of Awakening, felt rather bland, and if you listen to them through and through, they felt same over and over again. You listen to The Death of Me, and it just sounds like the previous one, like The Undefeated, but with a cool kind of post-hardcore transition. Then you get to Flatline, and it fails to stand out unless you listen to The Death of Me right before it. We're getting a sameness feel to the second half of the album. It kind of goes out with a whimper. Going back to Undefeated Until the Death of Me, they had these certain intros that made it sound like, you know, you're tuning into a radio and just starting out. And again, it gives this sameness feel. It doesn't really do anything to amplify these songs. If you take them out, the song isn't going to go anywhere. It's still going to have its bass. Honestly, those radio transitions and intros really kind of left this one in the bottom on my end. So when it comes down to the Awakening, or I should say Awakening, we're seeing certain things that Bless the Fall is doing that end up amplifying more of their sound and really show more of a perfection on it. However, there's still some certain things where they're adding certain things that are a little too much, and also seeing a different point where we're starting to see some of these songs really run together and we're lacking that just standout moment. Now time for Hollow Bodies in 2013. In this album, I thought the band kept building on what they had with Witness and Awakening, but they also had a little bit more of an electronic fusion in there. So I was like, oh, this is a little bit interesting, especially for number 4 of 6. But what really happened on this album? What I like about this album is in that first half, they really created a little bit more of a lighter feel to their post-hardcore sound, really had more of that pop punk infused there, but it was like pop punk with breakdowns. Think a Day to Remember on this one, especially even A Day to Remember around the same time in 2013. It's because those pop punk kind of flowing transitions gave this song a more energetic, especially the first half, upbeat kind of feel. Then you get to those breakdowns, brought back the heaviness, brought back the rawness, and it just fit very well. Take a look at Hollow Bodies because they use electronic influence to really add pace to the song, but use the heaviness of the instrumentals to complete what is maybe their fullest song today and probably my favorite that they've ever come out with. I'll take a look at Staying on Ashes because the guttural intro in the more metalcore sound with the soft transition more like a pop punk chorus brings the energy we need, and then the chanting breakdown really puts it all together. This was done really well by them. One thing I like about this album is one thing I was big on when I did the Kevin Figures Out era video, where the guitar tone was higher pitched and really contrasts well against the heavier backing sound, because we're getting this more dynamic, energetic feel, which lets you work with a metalcore sound, but also let you go back into a pop punk feel and really keep the energy flowing through and through. Take a look at You Wear the Crown, but You're Not No King. It creates a better flow from the heavier intro and the verses to a lighter chorus. Again, the electronic approach really works out much more here for the better with that higher pitched guitar. And then Deja Vu, you get the light guitar with the heavy backing to really contrast and let those unclean metalcore vocals really stand up and let the clean vocals also compare at the same time as well. This is just a good kind of hodgepodge. What I didn't like about this album was there were times, especially on some of these songs, where they had a lighter electronic intro to them, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. At times, I do like when bands bring in a heavy electronic presence if it really works well with that rougher sound. But at this point, especially with those intros, it just really didn't set the tone very well for some of these songs. It really just kind of left them a little bit more overproduced feeling and flat in my mind. Take a look at Exodus, because this is the case. The lighter electronic fast-paced intro just didn't mesh well with the techie kind of guitar that was going to be going forward right after it. And it just led to a song that kind of tried to jam too much into it, kind of, again, that kind of mess feel. And then Open Water, because the electronic intro didn't really help set the stage for the slower drumming, melodic, soft vocals that it had following it to create a softer song. It kind of just felt out of place in the end. One thing I like about this album was the fact that they misuse the vocals in terms of cleanliness and uncleanliness, and I do like Bo's tone, especially with the Bless the Fall backing, but there were times where I just thought they weren't well done to just bring the power of these songs out fully. Take a look at Carry On, because there's unclean verses, clean choruses, and the contrast lyrics, that the way they transition into each other just really makes it rough and really makes it kind of like they jam too much in there once again. And then take a look at Exodus, where the whinier vocals in the chorus just did not work out well, where a regular cleaner tone would have brought much more to the fold. So overall, this album actually might be my favorite with Hollow Bodies, especially with the titular song being one of my favorites overall. However, when they bring in some of those electronic influences, I like the fact that they're trying it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We just need to see more from here, but outside of Hollow Bodies, I'm like, there still really isn't that big of a standout moment here. Starting to see a pattern. Now it's time to go to 2015 with To Those Left Behind, and on this one, I thought the band tried to jump back even more to the roots on like Witness to really go and give a more heavier, more post-hardcore sound on the album. So, one thing I like about this album was they really differentiated the vocal styles and vocal transitions to really make it stand out, and I thought that with Bo's more mature sound on this one and more mature understanding of what the song needed at these points, gave the song a more dynamic flow, a little bit more of the standout moment, especially in the vocals, and how they transition from one spot to the other really did work out well. Take a look at Condition / Comatose, where the clear control on the chorus vocals allow the more dynamic drum fills in the track to add more of a full and fulfilling feeling to the song, which I really did like. Also, take a look at Oathbreaker, because the classic unclean verses mix the lighter clean pre-chorus and then the chorus to follow suit with it, allow the post-hardcore back in the chorus to really stand out and make this song feel full. So again, the vocals really doing a good job in this instance. I also like the fact that the second half had a little bit of a lighter feel to it, because seeing some of the heavier styles in the first half, and the second half, again, we're getting a little bit of a lighter feel, especially with guitar tones. But it brought in a little bit more of a different feel for the band, but it did work out well to really add more of a dynamic feel to this album. Take a look at To Those Left Behind, because the elevated guitar in the verses gives a lighter feel to that metalcore backing that we're seeing, and the guttural transition into the chorus creates this overall heavy and light track for all the right reasons. It's very varied and it's very well done. Take a look at Departures, because the pre-chorus kind of reminds me of like something that Sleeping with Sirens would have done with the electronic backing, but especially with the unclean second pre-chorus, it takes the song to a whole nother level with that on top of it. It's just, they did a good job mixing some of these. One thing I didn't like about this album was the fact that when I ran through it, it didn't feel like a full album. It felt like kind of some of these singles were in there. It would have worked out better. It didn't feel like a full collection, so the flow was completely off in terms of certain aspects of it. Take a look at Keep What We Love and Burn the Rest, because the melodic ballad feel wasn't really considering what the album had, and the uncontrolled vocals from Bo on this one really made it feel like more of a misstep that kind of messed with the overall energy of the album. And then there's Up in Flames, because they had this great transitional, heavy, energetic to a more melodic tone in the song. But then the whiny vocals, again, it just kind of messed with the flow of it overall, and we're just getting this not full feel from Bless the Fall. Again, we're potentially taking some of these standout moments and really bringing them back. And then, again, I just mentioned it, there are some songs in here that just feel very by the numbers. They just don't stand out at all. I listen like, yeah, that sounds like Bless the Fall, but that's about it. Songs like Dead Air and Looking Down from the Edge, again, we're seeing that again. Overall, when it comes to this album, again, we're seeing a lot of things I'm seeing with Bless the Fall, where we do have good pieces in there, where we do have a bigger understanding of what that sound is by them, especially with Bo really carrying the vocals. But there are times where, again, these albums are just kind of taking this chopped up feel, and they're really starting to sound a little bit more by the numbers at points too, where they're limiting the amount of dynamics that you could really have on this. So let's go to number 6. Now it's time to go to Hard Feelings, and this is the most recent entry from Bless the Fall, and looking at the album cover for it with that neon, I'm thinking we're going to get a couple more electronic influences in here. What I like about this album, and I'm going to look at Bo's vocals again, because when it comes to his vocals, he really did a great job to carry this overall, and again, we know this from his vocals, we know they work well with the Bless the Fall sound, and it does work out well here. Because it gives the song a more overall diverse dynamic and fuller feel that makes these songs stand out even more. Take a look at Melodramatic, because the faster pace in the song allows the clean primary vocals to stand out, and the unclean backing the verse to really drive momentum forward, you get a much fuller feel. Also, take a look at Welcome Home, because the vocals gain more power from the first verse into the second verse to show this growing feel in the song and just adding to the energy flow. It really does work out well. One track I have to highlight specifically is I'm Over Being Underrated, because the whole track is this energetic and it has this dynamic feel to it with an emo influence in the post-hardcore sound. And instead of building from light to heavy, they go reverse. They start out light and they go to a heavier sound as they go on. I love the reverse build than what we're used to seeing. This was well done. The biggest thing I didn't care for was how they include the electronic influence on this one. Again, taking a look at what they've done with these, at times I've liked what they've done, at times I didn't like what they've done, but especially with the fact they made this in 2018, yeah, this was definitely a more prevalent piece to bring in some more electronic influence. I totally get it. But at times I thought they really use them to oversaturate the songs, take out a lot of the heaviness and some of the roughness that was in there. Just the rawness was out, smoothed over, and at points, it didn't really work out very well. We're gonna go to Keep Me Close as an example. The lighter electronic influence really oversaturates the whole song and takes away from this like slight pierce the veil influence that I really did like on this, but it just prevented from being the standout moment. And then Feeling Low had this heavy electronic presence again to really take over the melodic clean verses and the higher pop punk chorus well to really try and add to it. But the intro heavy post-hardcore drumming is great in contrast, but that gets completely lost at it. It just kind of becomes more of a mess. So overall, this was probably one of my least favorite outings from Bless the Fall, where again, we're getting a lot of by the numbers kind of style from them. I did like I'm Over being overrated, but when they brought in a lot more of that electronic feel to it, I thought it really oversaturated what their sound was, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle. So overall, when it comes to the music of Bless the Fall, I'm going to be completely and utterly neutral on this, because there is things I like about their post-hardcore sound when they bring in more metalcore, more pop punk, when they have a great energy flow, when Bo's vocals really take that over, and sometimes they bring in electronic influence to really add on top of that. But there are times where I don't like the flow, there's times where I feel like there's a sameness going on overall, there's times where the vocals really don't control anything, so it's very hit and miss for me. Plus, when I think about Bless the Fall, after I was done running through their music, if you ask me to name like 3 or 4 songs by Bless the Fall, I still honestly would have a hard time. Reason being because there's really no standout moment. When I did the Kevin Figures Out Era video, the first album and Gungrave really stood out to me. For when I did Varsity, Massive was a song that just stuck in my head. When I did Hire the Hero, even We Beliefs with David Draymond stuck in my head. Again, there's really no standout full moment here, and that's why I think there was trouble for me to try and get into them, because I knew of them, but I'm like, they're just kind of there, so their music kind of felt that same way. However, I'll put it this way. Am I going to actively go out and seek listening to Bless the Fall? After this, I mean, probably not. But if someone puts them on, will I listen to them? Yeah, it's kind of like we'll see what happens, we'll let the universe decide. Now let's have a take a look at the image of Bless the Fall, see what they look like, see what their music videos like, see what they're like in a live thing, to see if I can get into them a little bit more. And taking a look at their pictures, Bless the Fall looks like the stereotypical scene band from the mid to late 2000s that grew up, because you take a look at their earlier stuff, they got the scene haircut, they got the clothes, the darker clothes, the skinnier look behind them, they look incredibly scene. But when you go to their most recent album, their most recent press pictures, the clothes colors are still the same. The body type, they're still skinny, a little bit bigger though, but of course, you know, that's what happens when you get older. And the haircuts, they're not very emo anymore, not very scene, but they kind of have a little bit more of that like modern look to them. Again, you're seeing it from a lot of different bands that were from the scene, and I totally understand it. I totally get it. They're just very stereotypical and just kind of fall into the fold. Now taking a look at the music videos, and this pretty much follows suit with the image, because you take a look at the evolution of music videos, they pretty much follow suit on what people in the scene had been doing during that time. Take a look at 2009 when Hey Baby Here's That Song You Want came out, because they kind of made a whole movie about it with lighter colors, lighter palette, a lot of more emo kind of style, a lot more scene style stuff. But one thing they did was they really touched on different things such as meeting people and relationships that you would see people in the scene talk about in their music. Then go to Hollow Bodies, because it takes that color palette, really drops it darker, but also has more of these like erratic movements to it, and really just kind of puts out a little bit of a different vibe. Honestly, if you put this one next to Shadow Moses by Bring Me the Horizon, it has a very similar feel to it, except a darker color palette, so it does make a lot of sense. Walk on Water is another one from 2015, because it drops it back even more with the black and white tone, and a little bit of like a Holy Hell vibe that Architects did 3 years later, so they kind of a little bit more on the forefront on this one. And I'm a little more intrigued by this, because man, they're really kind of going forward with it. But then when you get to the videos from the Hard Feelings album, they focus more on the lighting transitions. They use really more like neon colors, highlighter colors, really put more of that electronic feel in a more modern style. So you're seeing the perfect transition going forward from their music videos from that scene in 2009, 2008 to where they are now from their last album in 2018. So kind of expected in a way. Now taking a look at their live videos, this is where I got a little bit more intrigued by them, because I was watching different live videos from them, and it all depended upon the song that they were playing. If it was a lighter song, the band had a little bit more of a focus on what they were doing on stage, a little bit of less movement, a little bit more concentration on the energy they were putting out towards the crowd to really match what the song was going for. but the songs that had more of that energetic post-hardcore, metalcore, pop-punk influence in there, seeing Bo have more erratic movements, seeing the guys and the rest of the band really just kind of bringing more of this energy, a little more vibrant movements to it, and it really funnels over into the crowd. And this is something I can really get behind because you can clearly see that Bless the Fall has this understanding of what their music is, how it provides energy, and what they can do in their live show to really make that work. So when it comes to their image, again, I'm going to be neutral on this, but I'll lean a little bit more towards yes. And what I mean by that is when it comes to neutrality, I never really got into the scene look back in that time period, which I was live. I was in high school during it. So I never got into it, so I wasn't super into it, but I never hated it. So I'm like, okay, it's definitely going to be neutral, and seeing that kind of vibe, especially not only in music videos, but in their look, it does make sense. So I'm kind of like, it's okay, for me at least. And when it comes to their live setting though, this can be something where I'm like, yeah, they know how to drive a live energy. They know how to drive that audience. They know how to drive that crowd. They know how to transfer the energy back and forth. And that's going to be somewhere, if I see them come around here in my area and play a live show, will I get a ticket for it? Yeah, I'll put down money for it. So yeah, now it's time to take a look at how they engage with their community of fans and really see that's something I can get behind as well. So of course, because we're still coming at the closing days of the pandemic, I have to look at all their social media accounts. Facebook has about 1.6 million followers, Twitter's about 316,000 followers, Instagram is about 209,000 followers. And yeah, this was not good. And by not good, I mean this was utterly appalling. When I looked at their Facebook, their last post was a Spotify Wrapped from 2019. They have not posted at all since that post in like December 2019. That's almost like a year and a half worth of just nothing happening. And there's really no engagement from them at all. So you're not seeing that on Facebook on their largest account. Going to Twitter, their last tweet was BRB on January 9th, 2020. If you guys are working on music, I understand. I've seen other bands, I've seen Ronnie Radke do this, and come back and just have something even grander with I'm Not a Vampire revamped. However, that was it. And then go to Instagram. Instagram's worse. They've got nothing posted on there. So my question is, Bless the Fall, why is there so much neglect on the social media side of things from not posting anything during the coronavirus pandemic? This is a perfect way for you to get in contact with fans, get connected with them, and keep your name relevant. But what you did was just the absolute opposite. You neglected. You didn't do anything about it. And man, it's a real big bummer because kind of having a band that has a rather large following, you could have built up so much on that with different types of content. From Ash to New grew extensively because of this. So did Falling in Reverse, so did Stitch Apart, and so did Tripping with Matt Heafy's Twitch streams. It worked out so well for these guys that it could have been a huge thing for Bless the Fall. But you didn't post anything. You kind of drifted further into irrelevancy with this, and overall, I can't say I can get into this. This is a big no for me. And if you want to have a testament to it, Instagram. That's your testament. So now time for my overall verdict on Bless the Fall. And I'm going to be just straight neutral as possible. When it comes to music, there's some stuff I like, there's some stuff I don't like. But really when it comes down to music, again, it's something where I'm going to hear a song, and if I hear it in passing, yeah, I'll keep listening. I'm not going to go actively out and seek it. Plus, I can hardly remember any of the names of these songs. Nothing really stood out to me that much. They're kind of that scene band that was there. They're good, but they're just there. There's nothing real of a standout quality to them. Their image, again, neutral on the image when it comes to their music videos and their look, because I never really fully got into the scene style and what it's evolved into, and never really hated it, but I never really got into it. But their live videos and their live presence is really something I could also get behind. But their social media sites and how they connect with the fans is so disengaging that it just takes any positive that the image had and removes it. So this is about as neutral as possible. So that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know your thoughts on Bless the Fall in the comments below. It's Kevin from Mr. Rock's YouTube channel, The Hat Flip. And I came on that one short, so see ya!